I just recently uploaded a video talking about Dead Frontier 1. It's this amazing 16-year-old free-to-play browser client hybrid, and I absolutely love the game. Within a few hours there's a comment talking about Dead Frontier 2 and asking what my opinions on the game were. While making this script, a friend of mine suggested a title: Do Sequels Ruin a Franchise? And while I think that title is absolutely asking for trouble, I think it's a fantastic talking point, while also hinting at my general thoughts and opinions about Dead Frontier 2 compared to its older brother. So, here we are. Where old me wouldn't have dared use a title like this, new me thinks let's go for it. With Dead Frontier 2 being on Steam, you can actually see my playtime. I've played enough to know the general game loop, but definitely not enough to call myself an expert. You can also see that I have two characters, one level 12 and one level 16. I have no idea how high level that is, but I'm guessing it's not. Or at least you would see that if I remember to record that screen before I deleted one of my characters to make space. Let's get into this with a brand new character and have a look at the early game experience. To start with, you can see it's very different from Dead Frontier 1. We've moved from what was originally a 2D top-down shooter to now a full 3D over-the-shoulder third-person shooter. Very quickly though, I just want to make a note about the sound effects in this game. There's this occasional sort of ambient scream, and I have to admit it's really eerie. There's a few moments playing this game solo that just kind of freaked me out, and this moment in particular definitely scared me. Even though this isn't really a horror game, it definitely felt like there were some mild horror elements. Why is it red? There's no explanation in any of the colour names. What the fuck? Alright, I'll admit, that's creepy. This is actually making me feel quite uneasy. What? What? What the f... Ow. Am I dead? What the hell was that? That hospital zone genuinely freaked me out, and I had to take a small break after that. Look, I'll openly admit, I don't play horror games. I don't like horror games, even if they're not really intended to be horror. It's not for me. Dead Frontier 2 is very much a spiritual successor of the first. We've got a lot of similarities. There are notable improvements, but unfortunately we do have some things that are just worse. Character creation is still incredibly basic. We have very limited options, and they've removed the choice of picking a starter class. Now everybody starts with the same gear and the same stats, and honestly I think that's a shame. I liked the crazy choice of classes that the first game had. What we do get now is the choice of playing on their MMO server. You can set up a private lobby for you and your friends, or you can play the game solo. Of course I chose the MMO server option, which you'll see later was the right call. Loading into the world for the first time will place you in the Dalbo Police Department. The first outpost of the game, essentially. The first notable improvement are NPCs, and most of them actually offer quests. One of my biggest complaints from Dead Frontier 1 was the questing system. But don't get too excited. In my opinion, this is still not an ideal system. From my understanding, each NPC offers you a quest a day. Or maybe there's a bit of RNG, and maybe they give you slightly different quests each day. The main police guy actually seems to offer you a fantastic quest chain that essentially acts as a tutorial. Unfortunately, I actually didn't realise this at first, so most of what he teaches I found out through brute force. I still feel like both games are missing some form of dialogue or narrative when you first load in. Just something to put you on a track. Any track. It turns out, by the way, instead of going through the whole building trying to find all the NPCs, you can just accept all quests at the notice board. You can also hand all quests in here too when you finish them. This might actually save you a bit of time. With quests in tow, let's go out into the city. When I first played this game, we only had access to this one street. Well, sort of. You might notice that you have access to a car. You used to be able to drive this to different streets, but now they've actually put all the streets together into one seamless world. In my opinion, this is a big improvement on both early versions of this game and Dead Frontier 1. Never did I think about putting all the different pieces of map together to make one world, but now that's what I really want to happen in Dead Frontier 1. Another big improvement is actually the map in Dead Frontier 2. You no longer have to wait 5 seconds to open it, and has a lot of useful areas highlighted, and hovering over these sections actually tells you about every single building inside that segment. The core gameplay loop here is pretty much the same, but also different from the first game. We're still bashing zombies' brains in, we're still looting as much as possible, but where it differs is we're no longer spending much time outside, and we're spending almost all the time indoors. In Dead Frontier 2, your main job is essentially clearing out buildings room by room, which is where the biggest problem comes into play very quickly. The buildings are giant mazes that don't really make a lot of sense. You can end up going through a corridor to enter a large room, to go through a small door into another corridor, and each of these corridors can have 4 or 5 doors in them. And unfortunately what's worse is every time you go through a door, you get a very short loading screen as you enter a whole new instance. I think all the rooms need to be connected to the main building without any loading screens and completely seamless. Hell, maybe even make it so the zombies can bash through the doors and break through maybe. It'd make the whole gameplay feel a lot more fluid and dynamic. And I also think the buildings themselves probably need to be streamlined and condensed down a bit. The next problem within these buildings is looting. We not only get a loading screen for entering new rooms, we've also got teeny tiny ones for looting items. I noticed this especially as the servers start to struggle, and I actually had to start waiting a long time to see my loot pop up. But occasionally you actually come across some really cool pieces of loot. These could be newspaper cuttings, journal entries, or even audio tapes. From your inventory you can actually read these for experience. But they also come with a load of cool bits of lore. These audio tapes are especially cool because you can just play them whilst you continue to loot through the building. And we've got some really nice voice acting here. Just have a listen to this.
Mara, how are you this evening?
Excellent, thank you.
That's good to hear. Now, you've been head of Secrenom for nearly 2 decades, and during that time you've released the N2 and N3 viruses into the market.
That's right.
Were you at all worried about how they would perform in the market? Usually people take medication to get rid of a virus, not catch one.
Within the buildings of Dead Frontier 2 are these boss doors. Some doors will be labelled as 3 red question marks. On the other side of these doors is a boss zombie that is guaranteed to drop a rare piece of loot. Sometimes though these doors are actually locked with certain keys. This could be a brass key, a gold key, an old key, but whatever the type of key is, you are guaranteed to be able to find it within that building. All you have to do is go and look for it. One other thing that I absolutely love about Dead Frontier 2 are these sort of anti-bot chests. At least that's my guess at their purpose. Some chests are safe actually have 3 yellow question marks above them, and these are actually really cool puzzles that also have guaranteed rare loot inside. I had to find a webpage online to help me solve some of them, but it's actually a really fun addition to just the standard looting process. Unfortunately the whole process just feels slow, wooden and a bit clunky. And the most clunky part is the absolutely horrible melee combat. I tried a few weapons just to see if it gets better. It doesn't. Melee locks you in this awful long animation that actually moves your character slightly forward while doing it. This makes it incredibly difficult to get the distance right, and quite often you can get bitten while doing this. Thankfully this isn't Project Zomboid, where that could actually spell game over. It's also really annoying when you're up against a group of zombies. If you don't quite manage to hit one of them, you're almost guaranteed to get hurt. And it's such a shame because I loved melee so much in the first game. But what about gunplay? I tested out some pistols, rifles and shotguns, and I have to say, it's not bad. You need to take a few seconds to aim to get the reticle small enough to actually land headshots. But hitting the head and watching the brains splatter everywhere, it's pretty awesome. This is where shotguns really get the edge though. Thanks to being point blank, you can actually get away with shooting almost immediately. There's no need to do all that waiting around, which is probably why shotguns are a recommended weapon to build around to make a looter character. I'm sure Dead Frontier 1 had this to a degree, but in Dead Frontier 2 you're definitely more advised to use multiple characters and to build them for specific jobs. From what I can see online, people typically make one character for looting, one character for mission running, and one for bossing. What's the difference between all of these? I have no idea. I was building what I think is a looter. For this to make sense, we need to cover leveling up, as it's a little different from the first game. Now when you level up, first off, you don't need to go back to an outpost, you just level up. Sweet, nice change. But you no longer put points into a stat and weapons. Now you actually select perks that drastically alter what your character is good at. I was putting points into Sprinter, Fast Learner, Looter, Reloading and Shotgun Mastery. Improving the damage I did with shotguns, increasing the XP I earned, allowing me to sprint for longer and I think faster, and allowing me to loot quicker. Each perk actually has 5 levels to them, and I actually already had some of mine at level 3 by level 10. I actually love this perk system, and I would love to see a form of it being implemented into Dead Frontier 1. But I do actually miss the stat increases from the first game, and so I'd like to see that being brought into Dead Frontier 2. Perhaps even tie some of the perks to a certain level stat. Dead Frontier 2 actually keeps track of outpost invasions and displays when the next one will occur at the top of your map. I could see that this invasion was about to take place, and it was such a fantastic event in Dead Frontier 1. It was super fun, chaotic, and it rewards great experience. I defended this outpost solo for what felt like forever, and this surprised me. Why would no one stick around and get in on some of the experience? Maybe it's because the zombies trickled in one by one, and they weren't in any sort of enraged state like the first game, they were just shamblers. Thankfully we did get a couple of boss zombies, so we got some loot out of it. Wait, is that it? Is it over? Well, I can't hear the sirens anymore, but there was no notification of it finishing. No big XP drop. Nothing. How disappointing. Unfortunately, this is around the time that the slow nature of both the game and the rate of experience that you earn started to get to me. So I decided to try my hand at some high level zones, and immediately the game gets a lot more interesting. Just like in the first game, we're introduced to plenty of new special infected for each tier of difficulty you go up. There were these freaky, tiny pig mask zombies, and I really didn't like those. Ah! That's horrifying. Thankfully, I think they're a part of the Halloween event, so they should be going soon. After clearing out a few buildings in this level 15 zone, I discovered a boss door, and I gave it a shot. I don't fully know the mechanics of this boss zombie, but it seems like the more I look at it, I start to take damage. I was torn between if this was a really cool mechanic or a really annoying mechanic, but it did make the fight genuinely hard and stressful. Especially with the onslaught of other zombies, both flaming and regular. Thankfully I did actually manage to kill this boss, but it showed me how awkward trying to heal mid-fight is. And the worst part is I don't know how to suggest an improvement. In the first game you got invulnerability while you're in your inventory, but that just wouldn't work here. And at the same time I feel like hotkeys might be a bit too easy. But here's another quick complaint. Why is my health not on my UI? The UI we do have confused the hell out of me at first. It currently displays how many bullets you have, how much sprint you have, your dodge cooldown. Yes, we at least have a dodge button, but I kept forgetting to use it, so I have no idea how useful it is. We also have a kick meter. I never used this, so I don't know how good it is. And then I can only guess the arrow pointing up is telling me that I've leveled up. We don't have any food, drink or health meters, which is annoying since we actually have to manage all three of those. They are visible from the inventory screen though. Not sure how helpful that is. After successfully killing the first level 15 boss, I wanted to see what other bosses were about. So I went next door to the other small building, and we encountered this giant spitter boss. This is where the game just genuinely annoyed me. I have no doubt this is a skill issue, but do you know what? I don't care, and I'm going to complain about it anyways. This boss fired off so much spit, I could not dodge it. It aimed where I was standing, as well as any location I could have possibly moved to. I needed to reload, and reloading forces you to move incredibly slowly. So I waited until she used her spit, began reloading, and she just bloody spits again, instantly. I died, and I was left completely dumbfounded. What was I meant to do? Right at that moment, I was done. I sadly wasn't enjoying myself. But at the same time, I felt bad. I wanted to see more. I gave Dead Frontier 1 40 hours for that video, but I'd only given Dead Frontier 2 maybe 4 hours. I checked the map, and completely forgot I was only level 10. Those bosses were technically out of my level range. But thankfully, the much improved map showed me there were some events going on. Near the north side of the map, we had some Halloween events. We had to go and kill some pig masked zombies. And it was level 10. Great, let's go. Along the way, a few much higher level players ran past and helped me kill the zombies. This is amazing. Their kills counted towards my event. This is the easiest XP and money I've ever made. I wonder if I can use these guys, leech off them in the next much higher level zone. So I followed one of them. And to my surprise, they kept spamming, let's go. Could this be a rare wholesome moment where Wasabi Ramen Spy is actually going to help me? Yes, they are. They protected me, waited for me to catch up, just so I could get in on the kills. After that, they told me to follow them into a building where they one-shot the boss just for me. I thanked them and I was about to go on my way when they told me to come with them to the next outpost so they could help me do some high level quests. PvP enabled? Hang on a second, am I about to get murdered? Does that say PvP zone? I don't think we had these in Dead Frontier 1. Admit it, you thought they were going to kill me too. I know some of my viewers are big RuneScape fans and that right there, that's luring 101. Except that I don't think they'd get my gear if they kill me. Wasabi Ramen Spy and I got talking a bit. And this was the first time in a very long time I've partnered up with a random player in any game. But it felt really, really nice. We weren't actually in a party or anything, but when we went into buildings together, the game displayed a little blue asterisk to tell me where they went. We were tasked with collecting blood samples, and occasionally we would find these really creepy rooms filled with cobwebs. And that's literally it. I was getting the hospital vibes all over again. It didn't help that every time we entered these rooms, Wasabi would immediately say no and leave. I don't think I want to know what I would have found if I stuck around. And that's honestly where I'm going to end this video. I know that's going to seem like a random and sudden moment just to stop the video, but teaming up with Wasabi made me realise how golden gaming with other people is. Even randoms. I had more fun in the brief moments with Wasabi than I've had in my entire time playing Dead from Tier 1. And like I said, I sunk about 40 hours into that game in about 3 days. So I really enjoyed it. If Wasabi Ramen Spy ever ends up finding this, I just want to say a big thank you for the fun, and thanks for not killing me. But I'm curious, what about you all? What do you think of the game? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and I'll see you all again very soon. Bye bye.